All right, everyone, we are back for Out of the Park Baseball 22 playthrough. And I know I said last episode was our last, but I didn't feel like I gave a proper send-off to this playthrough. I feel like I kind of breezed through at the end. And I know I talked about simulating in the future to see how some players turned out, things like that. Well, so I found a way to do it, and it wasn't very hard. I just had to remove myself from being a coach, general manager for the Pirates, and I was able to sim years in the future and without any pauses or stoppages or things like that. So that's what I went ahead and did. And I simulated until all the players on that 2028 team retired. And then some prospects, I think, are at the end of their career because I simulated out until you can see up there 2045. 2045 to just see how everyone panned out. And to be quite honest, a lot of disappointments in the career. You can see here that we added a sixth team to our division. Some things changed. The Miami 97s moved to, I forget where they moved to actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, we'll have to go to the. I just had a complete brain fart here. We'll go to standings. Austin Coursers. I'm not even gonna. I was gonna postulate on what coursers are. The only time I've heard that is when Napoleon, and not to go down a rabbit hole, but when Napoleon invaded Russia, and they had to retreat from Moscow, like in November, like they started right before the snow fell, and they got demolished, like 600,000 troops down to I think less than 100,000. The coursers were the Russian like cavalry that harassed them the entire trip back into what was then like Germany, Prussia, Poland area. So that's the only time I've heard that. So I thought that was an interesting name, coursers, to have for Austin. If that's what I should have probably looked that up before the video started. But that's the only time I've heard that. So I thought that was an interesting name. I don't know what tie Austin has to that. I don't know. But anyway, so they moved. Miami moves to Austin. They're still in the NL East. We added the Columbus Jackalopes in our Central Division, and then to balance that out, the AL West added Las Vegas Gunners. So some interesting things happened over the subsequent 17 years. But anyways, I didn't do this to talk about that. I did it to look at the Pirates and how have they done in the subsequent years since we, left. We actually got fired the year after, the year after. Then I just simulated on through with no stoppages whatsoever. So I'm going to go to team history. And so how have the Pirates done since we stopped in 2028? Well, you'll see, not too great. We stopped in 2028. We finished 80 and 82. And they didn't sniff the playoffs until 2042. And this season was interesting because I watched it kind of sim out live. They had a 6-game lead in the middle of September, and they freaking blew it. 6-game division lead, and they blew it. They, I think, lost by a game to the Cubs. They might have even tied and lost a tiebreaker. I'm not sure. But that was the only time they even sniffed the playoffs. They've been complete, dare I say, ass since we left. At least we brought them, 3 winning seasons, 2 playoff appearances. But you can see, last 2 recent seasons, 35 games out of first place, 31, 27 and 2038. So, and then 31 games out of first place, 31 games out of first place again in 2036 and 2035. So just kind of poor, absolutely dreadful since we left. So the last year that we were on that team, 2028, these names will probably look familiar. So I wanted to see, how do these careers end up? Like I said, most of them pretty much ended in disappointment. The one I'll start with that I was most intrigued about was Sean Bacon. We're going to start there because if you remember, he's the player that we drafted, and he was the only 5-star talent player I've ever seen in a draft, like an amateur draft, already 5-star talent. And he came in and he was incredible for us that first year. And you can even see here, 3.7 WAR for a reliever is, I don't want to say unheard of, but it's in the upper echelon of talent. Had 110 strikeouts to 18 walks. So I was really curious, what did his career look like? Did he go down as the Hall of Fame reliever that I thought? So let's go ahead and check his career. Entirely too short, in my opinion. Only 8 years. He played to 2036, and if you look at his WAR numbers, I don't know why he hung it up so early. If we go to, I think he had some injury history. Yeah, some injury history. Yeah, pretty extensive injury history here. And I think it all went awry after this partially torn UCL. I think that's where shit hit the fan, pardon my French, and he started having I know it says he didn't have any decreased or effect, but I feel like it did. And then he again had elbow ligament reconstruction surgery a couple years later. So that's such a shame. If we go back and look at his profile, he had really, one bad season in terms of whip. It was hit hard by BABIP. But over his career, look, very high strikeout per 9, moderate. He never got back to that 1.4 walks per 9 that he had his rookie year, but it wasn't terrible. He crept up there. He crept up in the 3.5, at the end, 3.5 walks per 9. But before that, he limited it to under 3 walks per 9 innings, limited his home runs. His whip was pretty good. And overall for his career, I don't know. Not really up on reliever ratios. 431 strikeouts to 81 walks over a career, though, I feel like is pretty good. And he only gave up 34 home runs his entire career, 11 of which were in one season, 2032. If you take away that season, he gave up 23 home runs across 8 years. I think that's pretty good. But nowhere near what I feel like he could have done or was really hoping he would do. He caught on there for 9 innings with Boston and then decided to hang it up. But even in that final year, 5 strikeouts, no walks. I don't know, it wasn't bad. But his career, 9.5 WAR, 288 innings pitched, 431 strikeouts. The guy could be dominant. So I'm kind of bummed that he didn't have a better career, longer career than that. I really felt like he could have been one of the best or was on track, at least after his first 2 years, to maybe be one of the best, have a Hall of Fame path. Because that first full year led the league in saves, 110 Ks in 63 innings, only 18 walks. Whip under. He had 2 years of whip underneath 1 to start his career. So, and really a career whip underneath 1 4 times to start his career. So, with high strikeout per 9. So, again, I was kind of disappointed by that, and it doesn't get much better, to be honest. So, that was when I was most interested to look at. Everyone else, like Kumar Rocker, was one I was also intrigued by. He had a long career, but not necessarily a great career, like in terms of like Hall of Fame potential. You can see there he's not going to get in. Hall of Fame voting history, 5%, votes. So at least he's on the ballot. You can look at it like that. But yeah, his strikeout per 9 was always pretty good. His walks, was always an issue in his career. So it wasn't bad. Definitely not a bad career. Wouldn't call it a bad career by any stretch of the imagination, but wasn't maybe as, I don't want to say as good as he could have been because he was durable. Look at this. Even after he left Pittsburgh in 2028, he played for Philly the rest of his career. 32 starts, 33, 23, 32, 32. So he was durable. And I guess it was never that extra gear. I was always hoping he would find that like really elite gear, and it doesn't look like he ever really did. If we look, let's just check out his injury history. Yeah, had but was never really banged. Never had like a season-ending injury. So just kind of a bummer there. And then if you look at his career, 2026 All-Star, 2031 All-Star, 2034 All-Star, and then he was a World Series champion in 2034. So, not a terrible career, but never found that extra gear. And then if we're talking about that Phillies team, I believe another member of that team that was on the Buccos was Nick Madrigal. If we look at that, let's see. 2034. So both Rocker and Madrigal are on that team. And he is getting Hall of Fame votes. You can see there, he for the last 3 years he's gotten a couple Hall of Fame votes. His Jaws rating is below the average Hall of Fame second baseman, but still not terrible. He ended up with let's see here, 2,300 hits, which isn't bad. Batting an even 300 for his entire career, and 39 WAR total, and 2,300 hits. That's a pretty good career. 411 doubles, walked 100 more times in his career than he struck out. And then was always a threat to steal the bases up until really like his last 2 years. So not a terrible career. You combine this with his defense overall, and you get a pretty good career. Okay, I can't really look back at the career fielding. Yeah, we could do that. Career fielding stats. I have not looked at this, but yeah, look, his range factor's entire career was always positive. Now his zone rating, which I believe zone rating is a little more finicky than a range factor. I'm not sure. I can't remember which of the two is less. They're both kind of unreliable, at least this day and age. But I think one's a little bit more finicky than the other. So Nick Madrigal, overall solid career. A couple other players that I wanted to look at throughout was Alec Baum. I think he might have ended up having the best career. Well, second best career. We'll get to the one who had that did have kind of a breakout career after we traded him in our final year. But Baum had I don't want to say a bomb career, but 45 WAR overall. He ended with 1,400 RBI, 2,600 hits. So he was closing in on 3,000, and I always kind of wonder, those years where we kept him on the bench a little bit, like 2028, what would happen if he had a little bit more playing time there. But overall, good career. Hit 278 for a career, 117 OPS plus, so an above-average hitter. But man, the guy could strike out with the best of them. So if you see this All-Star in 2021, he was not on our team then. 2023 was not on our team, but was in 2025 where he was an All-Star. 2030, he was with the Giants at that time. 2033 was an All-Star. 2038. So his second to last year, he still made the All-Star team. So, decent career. I'm sure he might get some Hall of Fame votes, maybe one or two. But let's see. So we'll go Baum, Danny Chaparro. If you remember him, he was our stud center fielder, or was turning out to be our stud center fielder when we left. And after we got fired, he had a couple decent years. His best for the Pirates, at least, is probably 2032. 1,200 hits for his career. 21.5 WAR, a little bit below average hitter, but was always good in the field. At least that's what I remember. Let's look at his stats here. Not bad in the field. His efficiency was kind of low, to be honest, now that I'm looking at that. But, decent number of assists through his career. So, I don't know. He was fine. And, looks like he made a transition to first base too, which is interesting there. But that was Chaparro's career. If we look at Nick Gonzalez, he had a couple, I feel like, really good years for us, especially in that DH role. You look at that 2029 season, which we weren't a part of, or we didn't sim through, but 16 home runs, 85 RBI. For his career, an above-average hitter, but I just think he didn't do enough in the field to really boost that up. And he ended up winning a World Series in 2031 with the Mariners. So a lot of our guys went on to win World Series, unfortunately just not with the Pirates. Let's see, who else are we going to want to look at? We're going to look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., which he was a great hitter. He turned out to be a great hitter. So over 3,000 hits, hit that plateau. 424 home runs. Figured he might be a member of that 500 club when all things are said and done. But hit 283 for his career. And maybe it wasn't Baum. It was Guerrero Jr. who had the best career. He was an all-star for his time in Toronto, and then again with us and the Pirates in 2027. And then not again until 2031, and he ended up leaving. He stayed with us until his age 36 season. So I'm just kind of looking through all this stuff now for the first time. So I thought there was a little bit more disappointments in here, but over 3,000 hits, man, that is a absolute great career. Platinum Stick Award, he won 4 times. So he had a great career. He ended up having a very good career. His best years, I would say, was at the tail end with Pittsburgh, 5.5 WAR, 4.6 WAR, 3.1 WAR. So actually better now that I'm kind of diving into this a little bit more. Never won a World Series though. So the biggest disappointment I feel like ever, Brian Hayes, 21 WAR, below average hitter for his career. A ton of strikeouts, only hit 248, only had 1,200 hits. If you were to ask a Pirates fan right now if his career ended up like that, would they be happy? I think the resounding answer would be hell no. Especially based on what he's shown so far, his rookie season, and even in the one game he played this season, I think he hit a home run. So when I film this, he's working out with Kansas City. He's working out with the Pirates in Kansas City right now. So he's about to come off the 60-day DL. And I think if you ask any Pirates fans if this was his career, if they'd be happy, I think, like I said, I think the answer would be no. For as good as he was, and I don't even want to say that because I feel like he was disappointing, at least at the plate in his early years. He had a lot of seasons of even negative WAR or just like replacement level WAR, 0.4, 0.3. 0, 0.1, 0.1, negative 0.1. That's all replacement level stuff. And I think that would just be very disappointed as a Pirates fan. Royce Lewis ended up having a pretty good career. He stuck around till age 40. Only 2,200 hits, though, but a threat on the base paths and a 40 career WAR. Some of his best years were in Houston at his age 32 season. 3 WAR, 4 WAR, 4 WAR, 3 WAR. Some of his best seasons were after he left Pittsburgh, in addition to the 2 that he had, right near the end when we first brought him on. Not a terrible career, but I don't think he's going to get any Hall of Fame votes. I could be wrong, but an above average hitter his entire career pretty much. So that was Royce Lewis. Anyone else? Alec Thomas. How could we forget? So we look at Alec Thomas. He had a pretty good career, 1,800 hits. He left Pittsburgh not right after, but immediately after we were fired, went to Baltimore. I'm not sure if he was traded or just left in free agency, but had a couple good years with them. He was really consistent throughout his career. He posted at least 3 WAR from the time he was 24 until the time he was 30. So pretty good career there. All things said and done. Again, he was also a threat on the base paths. His home runs were kind of low. He also walked a lot too. He was good at the plate, and I feel like that 132 home runs doesn't do him justice. I feel like there was always a little bit more power in there. Maybe I'm wrong. But again, 2025 All-Star, that was normal. Or not normal. I mean, you guys knew that. World Series champion in 2030 with the Orioles. Yes, the Orioles actually have won a couple World Series, I believe. And then he was the AL Division Series MVP. So he had a good run. He had a good playoff series in his career. I'm glad we could see him. We could see him off doing that. But everyone else in terms of pitching had a pretty poor career. Thomas White didn't do much after he left. Ended his career with 4 WAR total. So no, Dick Fitz, our like 1 year wonder. When we had him, he went. What was that year? He played. He was maybe this was the 10-9. I remember it being a much better year, I guess. But did like next to nothing after that. So I remember that 1 year he just came out of the gates. So he just came out of the gates on fire. He went like 6-0. So the other player, if you remember one of our last trades that we had, we traded for Alex Kirilloff. And we were like, hey, we're going to give up our farm, whatever. Let's just try to win this year. And one of the players that we traded away was Quadir Stevens. And you may not remember that name. That's fine. But he had a long career with the Twins, actually. So we're going to let's just choose. We're going to go back here. And we're going to choose like 2030 because I believe he was on the Twins roster at that time. We're going to click Minnesota. And we will see, I believe, Quadir Stevens. So he's still playing, believe it or not. I think he has 2 years left on his contract. But if we go into his batting stats, I mean, look, he was an all-star in 2031, 33, 34, 35, 36, and then 40. And then he was a Platinum Stick Award winner twice as a designated hitter, which I think was kind of odd. But look, he led the league in quite a bit through his time. He led the league in WAR once, led the league in on-base percentage twice in the 400s, led the league in average, 357, stolen bases. I mean, look at this guy's stolen bases. I don't think it's anything close to Ricky Henderson's all-time. I think Ricky Henderson has over 1,000 stolen bases. And I'm going to look that up right now because I don't want to come off as a complete idiot if he had way more than 1,000. Ricky Henderson, I'm just Googling it right now. Ricky Henderson, stolen base career. That's the one thing I'm pretty... Ricky Henderson had 1,400 stolen bases in his career. That's one thing I feel like I'm kind of weak at is knowing... Not necessarily the career marks for like home runs and things like that, but, hey, what's a really good, career total for doubles? Something like that. So, I mean, he still has an outside possibility. I know he's 35 now. He still has an outside possibility to get to 3,000 hits. He's a hit below 2,500. So you got to think that's maybe 4 seasons. Can he last to 39, and can he get the opportunities to hit, 120 or have it 120 hits a year? I'm not sure. But he led the league in steals 5 times, stealing, over 40 bases, looks like 5 times. So career 296 hitter, 120 OPS plus, 821 OPS, and then 49 WAR total. So he walked. He had 1,100 walks in his career, as opposed to over 1,000 strikeouts. I'm gonna actually look up career walk leaders, and I mean career walks 2,500 Barry Bonds, 2,100 Ricky Henderson. So. The active career leader in walks is Albert Pujols with 1,300. So, he is not far off. Maybe he's far off the all-time greats, but in terms of being like an active leader in walks, he's right up there. So, low home runs, low RBI, but man, he made up for it with doubles in the league in doubles twice or 4 times, triples twice. Had over 200 hits once and led the league there. Led the league 3 times in runs. So I feel like he has Hall of Fame potential once he retires, and he's probably the player that statistically, in terms of long-term, just raw statistics, had the best career. Now, I'm not factoring in like World Series and things like that, but in terms of like All-Star games, things like that, I feel like he's probably had the best career, and he can still add to it. I mean, he's he's 35 years old right now, so he's coming up on the end, but he has a chance to maybe get over that 300 mark for his career, which would be huge. He has a chance to get that 3,000 hit mark, and a chance to add on to his stolen base numbers too. So, it's funny. The player on our teams that had the best outcome were the ones that was the player that we traded away in our final year. So, anyway, so that I feel like that does a little bit more justice to what wrapping up kind of the career there. Pirates never sniffed the playoffs again since they have sniffed it once. They never got into the playoffs since we left. Always been kind of bottom of the NL Central. So nothing crazy. Some of our guys had good careers. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Quadir Stevens, Alec Thomas. They had decent careers, and other ones never. Nick Madrigal as well. Others never panned out, like Brian Hayes. So just interesting. I thought that was kind of cool to sim so far in the future to see how things worked out. But so this will be the final end of the series, unless anyone has questions and wants me to dive deeper into some of these players. But other than that, it doesn't look like we have any surefire Hall of Famers that are going to come from those teams. Maybe Quadir Stevens, maybe the closest one when everything's said and done. But nothing from those teams in the mid-20s that we had. So, anyways, I appreciate you guys just checking this last episode out. This is the last episode, like I said. Unless there's some demand for greater sims, I can't imagine that happening. But thank you all for this one. If you have not started watching the Dodgers one, I would suggest you do it. I think that just knowing what's coming in that, because I think I have 24 episodes that are filmed and are about to come out, even though I think there's only been maybe 5 or so published since you're watching this. And there's a lot of fun stuff coming. I have a lot of fun simming that. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and do it. And if you haven't listened to the podcast yet, go ahead and do that. Let me know what you think. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great one. I'll talk to you later. Peace.